Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. We've got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten. It's a weekend episode here on the Big Ten Huddle, just me once again, and I'm having some issues with my mic tonight, so I'm coming through the laptop, computer, microphone, whatever it's called, instead. So I hope everything still sounds good for you guys. I'll try my best to get this worked out for the Monday show. However, did want to make sure I did an episode for you guys for Saturday morning because we had some really good news for the Big Ten, and I want to make sure we get to it. And one of those big things is the new Big Ten commercial that's coming out. Now, before we get to that, I do want to remind you we do have episodes every Monday, Friday, and Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Those are the recorded episodes. Probably going to mostly be me. Might have some other people on here and there, but mostly going to be me for those. And then on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, we are going to have live episodes at 9 p.m. And so if you're somebody you just like to listen to it in the morning instead, I gotcha. You're good. You'll have you will have an episode every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning for you to listen to. Sorry, Tuesday just gets the short end of the stick there. However, I did want to make sure to remind you guys of that. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. And we're going to be going over comments for the first time on this episode. I'll be addressing comments on the videos this past week and trying to figure out what you guys are saying. I'll respond to them. I'll say thank you. I might disagree with you. Who knows? We'll get to it. I do try my best to respond to comments as well. Can't get to every single one. I do apologize. However, I do my absolute best. All right, let's go ahead and get into the information here. The Big Ten Maps commercial has been redone, and Big Ten fans are ecstatic about it, right? I know I am. I'm super happy about this. This commercial came out in 2014 when Rutgers and Maryland were added to the conference. That was a big step when you added those two to the conference. Obviously not as big as now because you didn't have the elite football programs in those two that you have in like Oregon and the blue blood of USC and what Washington can be when they're on the up and up, and UCLA, who has had good sports accomplishments in the past, but I think they're much more on the basketball side rather than on the football side. I don't mean to disrespect that football program, but I think UCLA fans would agree the history is much more there in basketball than it is in football. So super excited to be welcoming these teams, and I'm super excited they are now in the Big Ten Maps commercial. It's been remade, and these four teams are in it. Now, Tony Petitti hinted to this at Big Ten Media Days. He was kind of asked a little bit about the commercial, and he essentially said, "We've heard you, and we're working," which made us believe, oh, maybe sometime during the season this will be released. Nope, on August 2nd, when everybody has Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington officially added to the Big Ten, where you get the official commercial. Love to see it. Of course, I made my version on JR's rankings where I included the inflated duck on all the water. However, the Big Ten didn't think to do that, even though Dan Lanning said he wanted the duck to come with him to every away game. So I did that on my channel, but we're not going to use that one because unfortunately the duck does block out a few things that I want to make sure we point out. So basically what I want to do is I want to give you proof on why this commercial is so great. Why it's, I wouldn't say perfect, because I think there are some things here and there that maybe they could have added, but it's a fantastic commercial. It hits you in the feels. If you are anybody who has been to one of these universities, they most likely popped up something that had an impact on the tradition of that university, maybe why you went there, something that points out the football program because they have all the stadiums there as well. So overall, I mean, this is just such a great commercial that points out so many different things about each university. We're not going to go too in depth in every single one, but I do want to highlight what has been pointed out in this commercial because I think it deserves it. And I think we got to commend Tony Petitti in the Big Ten that they worked on this, get this done. And we are truly going to be in for a treat when we see this commercial during football games, basketball games, all these different things this season, and hopefully beyond as well, because this commercial has lasted 10 years. They've remade it, and I hope we see more of it. So let's go ahead and start with the commercial. And I've taken the sound off because I can't exactly not have copyright. If you remember the first commercial started with I'm going to put myself down here so you get a full view. Started with the Rose Bowl. That is not the case here. We don't get the Rose Bowl here at the beginning. I believe this is American Border Peak, the mountain at the border of America and Canada, the United States of America and Canada. I'm not for sure. If you have a different idea, please let me know, but that would be my best guess. And then from there, we immediately go to Washington. Washington pops up, and you're going to get a lot of the traditions of Washington there. You have the cherry blossom trees. That's obviously a huge piece of Washington. They took those trees and they put them on the Washington's campus. The signature Yoshino cherry trees. They're nearly 90 years old and were originally set in a grove at the Washington Park Arboretum in early 1962, and the university transplanted those trees. They transplanted them, brought them over into the campus. This was a nice touch for them to put those on there. This wasn't something I was super familiar with Washington. Obviously, I've not been to the Washington campus. I did not go there. However, looking through their website, figuring things out, this is definitely something they're proud of and definitely something that needed to be recognized, and I'm glad that they did. The campus, they're highlighting certain aspects of it. Washington is very proud of their 19th century buildings and how historic those are, how they preserve that history. So you see a little bit of that there in the with the cherry trees there. And then of course the Space Needle. I mean, how could anybody not have the Space Needle and Husky Stadium? It's just it's a fantastic piece there. It wouldn't be Husker Stadium, that'd be Nebraska. It's not actually their name. But and how could you forget Mount Rainier up there to the left of the W? Fantastic for Washington. You have a little bit of Seattle. You have a little bit of, if you're going to go to Seattle, you're going to make sure you go to Mount Rainier. I walked the trek, the hike or whatever, up to the top of Mount Rainier. It was just the regular walking one. I didn't go up to the full tippy top, but it was a nice piece to be able to do that, and I enjoyed it. So Seattle, great city, been on top of the Space Needle, or at the top of the Space Needle, and it's just fantastic, and I'm so glad that they put the detail in that here. Then we go over to Oregon, and Oregon has, of course, Mount Hood there for them. They have their football stadium. In addition to that, they have Knight campus. They're highlighting that, which, football or Oregon, you think of Nike, you think of Knight's campus, obviously named after Phil Knight. And then the giant version of the Ducks mascot there in the very middle. I mean, how could you not, right? This duck has been everywhere. This duck has been doing everything. It's an aspect of Oregon that I've really enjoyed since they've joined the conference. I like their kind of playful attitude with this and having fun with it. And I appreciated that Matt Rule had some fun with it too. Even when he comes into the press conference for Nebraska, he's having fun with it as well. So, the duck doing all those things, very, very interesting. All right, then we make our way down to UCLA and USC, and they kind of combine them together here. You see UCLA pop up first, but then right after that, you see USC next to them, really, making true what Deshaun Foster said. We are in LA right next to, with USC there in LA. Very, very fun for them to put those two together. And Deshaun Foster, who would have known? He was a visionary for what they were going to do with the commercial. You have the Hollywood lights in there. You have the 42 statue symbolizing the UCLA alum, Jackie Robinson, who emerged from there. Excellent, excellent thing to put into here. I love that. I love that aspect of the detail. The Santa Monica Pier is also displayed alongside the skyscrapers in downtown Los Angeles. Really, really good stuff here. You have the USC Trojan there in the middle of the stadium. You love that aspect. And you do have some of the Rose Bowl there on the front of the UCLA stadium as well. So obviously not as prominent as it once was. The Rose Bowl has kind of lost its connection to the Big Ten over the years with the playoffs and things. And this is exactly what I said would happen when we talked about state or bowl games incorporated into the playoffs. People don't care about the bowl games nearly as much anymore because all they care about is the playoffs. And if you separated those bowl games from the playoffs, there would still be a little bit of the fondness there. But of course not. We had to put all of these major bowl games that have so much history into the playoffs. And now it doesn't matter who won the Rose Bowl. It doesn't matter the history of the Rose Bowl because it's no longer Big Ten, Pac-12. It is just another bowl game that's out there. Yes, they have the parade. Yes, they have all that nice stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not nearly as special as it once was. And I think that there's a lot of reasons for that, but to me, that's one of the big ones. There's also the San Gabriel Mountains there in the background, so you really like to see that. And of course, a look at USC's campus right there next to the SC. Awesome detail, things they put in there. I don't think they've missed anything so far. I think you could argue maybe that you'd like to add one or two things to something, but I don't think anything has been less or has been more important than anything they've already put in. So excellent stuff there out west, and I do appreciate that. We go on over to Nebraska, and I was wondering if they would take this out, but as you move in with Nebraska, you see the balloons above the stadium. Now, if you're not familiar with that, those balloons stopped being sent out in Memorial Stadium in 2016 because a Nebraska man filed a lawsuit against the university claiming the balloons posed a health hazard to young children and wildlife after they returned to the ground. Nebraska student government in November of 2016 voted to end the tradition. Although they don't oversee the game day events, they voted and they listened. And so 2016, we no longer saw the balloons being raised up after that crazy thing. That's just, it was a cool tradition for Nebraska. However, I think this Nebraska man was probably right. There's probably some issues with wildlife, environment, whatever it might be, with launching all those balloons up there. However, they had fun with it for a while as they could. The Husker Legacy statue is also there. We go ahead a little bit more. You'll see it. I think that's 6 Nebraska players. It's a Kansas or Kansas State player that they're tackling. So you love that statue to honor their 1970, 1971, 1994, and 1995 national championships. And of course, right there in the middle is the Kauffman Academic Residential Center on Nebraska's campus, a very prominent building for their campus that has been on display. Very cool to see that for Nebraska. All right, we move on over to Iowa. And Iowa, see at the very beginning, the coin flip. The coin flip there at the very beginning, when Iowa appears in the commercial, a coin flip is in the air. That coin is the Nile Kinnick coin, which is used for the coin toss in every Big Ten football game for them. So good tradition there. Fun aspect for them to cover and put in there. In addition to that, there's also the Steel Hawk statue right next to that coin, a playbill for the play, a streetcar named Desire, which was made by Iowa alum Tennessee Williams. Funny that a guy named Tennessee went to Iowa. And then there's also the old Iowa Capitol building, which is featured in the school's campus. So you like to see all that included. And like I said before, I mean, this is all stuff that if you went to this school is going to bring back memories, whether it was a football program or whatever else. No football stadium here. I don't think I'm missing that. No football stadium there. So kind of interesting there. The Nebraska has the football stadium. I think all of them have had the football stadium so far, other than Iowa. All right, we get to Minnesota up here. You got the Golden Gopher statue. What is that? Goldie Gopher statue there for the mascot. There's also the hockey players skating on the ice pond. Obviously, a very important landmark there for the for Minnesota. You think of ice hockey, you think of ice skating, all those different things with Minnesota, a men's and women's hockey powerhouse there. The Spoon Bridge and the Cherry statue also appear there. That was actually where I put my duck. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't have the duck video as the one here, because I kind of blocked the Spoon Bridge Cherry statue there. And then the skyscraper scene in downtown Minneapolis, again, giving you that city feel because it is in the middle of Minneapolis, that city, that piece of it there. I mean, that is just that's what you get when you go to Minnesota, right? So this is all stuff that you're going to remember, that you're going to be fond of as somebody who went there. Wisconsin, we get over to Camp Randall. Now, I want to play this for you, and I'll do my best to stop it so we don't keep going on. But look at Camp Randall. The stadium right there pops up first. Look at Camp Randall, and look at what they have it doing. Up and down, jumping up and down. Why would Camp Randall be jumping around? Well, the tradition, right? Jump around. You love that aspect of it. You love that it's there. The state capitol building is also there for Wisconsin, and the Abraham Lincoln statue that is on Wisconsin's campus. Fantastic stuff. You love to see. You love to see it. I could just go on and on about all the traditions and all the things that they are keeping and comprising throughout this commercial, and I love it. All right, Northwestern. This is probably the one that if you are not super familiar with the school, you might not know everything here, but a pair of masks appear because of Northwestern's well-known strong theater program that people can be a part of. Obviously, Chicago, strong theater there. If you go to the very beginning, I'm going to see if I can catch this for you. And if you're listening on podcast, I do apologize, but if you go back and watch the commercial, you'll see all this stuff. Before the N for Nebraska even pops up, what's it popping up on? A lacrosse field. All right. They're not just putting stuff, the football stadiums in there. They're putting the lacrosse stadium for the women's lacrosse team. Multiple national championships for them. Powerhouse program in women's lacrosse for Northwestern. So love to see that they added that detail in there. It's not all about football. It is about so much more in the Big Ten. In addition to that, you have both the Weber Arch and the University Hall of Northwestern's campus there right in front of the inn. And then, as you do in most other city schools or whatever, you have the skyscrapers of downtown Chicago. Love to see that aspect of it there. All right, moving on to Champaign, Illinois, down south a little bit. And this is one that you can't really see it. I hated that. Right? Like if you're on YouTube and you're scrubbing, kind of like I am right here, this is a little bit different than the YouTube scrub, but you can't even really see some of the stuff down there. And that annoys me. I mean, you have the statue of Robert Ebert, the famed film critic in Illinois, alumni there. There's also the school's alma mater statue, so you like that. The campus is shown slightly in there, and then forgive me, I'm probably going to botch this pronunciation, Follinger Auditorium there at the bottom. So, I mean, if I was an Illinois fan, I'd feel like I kind of got gypped in this commercial a little bit. I hate to say that because I do love the commercial so much, but this was definitely an area that they could have improved. You don't really get much of a feel for Illinois. It's kind of like you're going from Northwestern to Purdue and Illinois just pops up for a second. I mean, watch this through from Northwestern to Purdue. Illinois pops up down there, and then, I mean, you kind of get a little bit of a dip, but it's just not very much. I would have liked to see the camera angle change maybe a little bit to get a little bit more of that, but, what are you going to do? It is what it is. All right. Purdue, several features. The several features on Purdue's campus are included in the commercial, such as the Boilermaker Special and the Boilermaker statue. So you see those pop up there. And then, of course, wouldn't be Purdue if you didn't have some Neil Armstrong in there. You have an unidentified NASA astronaut. I think everybody can assume that's an ode to the Purdue alum Neil Armstrong, the first ever person to walk on the moon, unless you don't believe that happened, which who am I to judge if you don't believe that happened? Let's move on. Indiana has some good stuff pop up there. See, what they did with Indiana is really probably what they should have done with Illinois. Indiana still had a little bit of the center shot there. Now, they do kind of cut away before you see all the banners pop up. So you don't get all that. It kind of goes to the bottom right-hand corner. But still, I mean, you have Indiana there in the shot a little bit. I would have liked to see the Indiana stuff pop up a little bit more, but that's just me. The sample gates on Indiana's campus are prominently shown in the commercial. You see those right away. Other buildings on the school's campus are also there. And then the huge one, the 5 national championship banners won by the school men's basketball team also hang in the air. And let me tell you what, they're prominent in Assembly Hall, so they might as well be prominent on this commercial too. So excellent for them. And then we get up to Michigan State, and Michigan. I kind of feel like Michigan State got gypped a little bit here as well. The Spartan statue being the most prominent, and then the Bowmount Tower is also featured. I mean, you got the two there, but it kind of sits behind the the Northwestern towers of Chicago there, the skyscrapers. So I don't know. Maybe Michigan State fans would have liked to see a little bit more, but at the end of the day, I mean, those are still two prominent pieces on your campus that you're gonna remember. Michigan, they got some special treatment here. Michigan fans should be very happy with what they had happen to them, but I will say there's one thing that I would not be happy with if I were a Michigan fan. Personally, this is just me. The cube on Michigan's campus is there. All right, so you like to see that. The cube right there in between, it's kind of hidden a little bit. You have to look maybe a second time to really see it when the commercial's going through. And then the big house, the Go Blue flag is flying over. Where is the M Club supports you at the bottom, right? I mean, like, that was one of the first things I saw when I saw this commercial. I was like, okay, you have the Go Blue banner. That's awesome. That is such a tradition, a trademark for every Michigan football game. But where's the M Club supports you? I don't know. Did they stop doing it? I didn't think they did, but I mean, they stopped doing the balloons and so they still have that there. So I don't know. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's probably not that big of a deal, but to me, I'd want it there. It's a part of the banner. It makes it a little bit unique, but I don't know. I would want it there. The commercial also shows Detroit with the Spirit of Detroit statue there, so you like to see that for Detroit. And then the GM Renaissance Center being shown as well there in the back around the water. Excellent features there. Michigan fans, like I said, even though you didn't get the M Club supports you, still a good piece there. All right, Ohio State. You got the OHIO people right there. You have Ohio Stadium. I mean, like, they didn't really do all that much for Ohio State, which is fine. It is what it is. But Script Ohio, I would have liked to see Script Ohio maybe made out on the field by people instead of written up in the air like that. I mean, I'm nitpicking here. Maybe it's not that big of a deal, but personally, I would have liked to see that. You see the blimp over the stadium, which I'm not sure if everybody is aware of that tradition. You can go look that up with the pilots and the Goodyear blimp and stuff like that in Akron. But I don't know. It's fine. The OHIO people there in Ohio Stadium totally makes sense. I do think that Columbus is probably on the same level of cities as some of those other ones that got their cities featured, but that's just me. It's not like it's some school that's out in the middle of nowhere like it kind of looks like here. But anyway, move on to Penn State, the Nittany Lions, and theirs kind of shows up with everybody else. You can kind of see stuff as everybody else goes, but I did think they did a good job here. The Nittany Lions shrine is there, seen on the school's campus. It is prominently shown for them. You like that. The other parts of the school campus are shown there as well. And then you got to wait a little bit to see the last part there. But as the commercial transitions out of Penn State, you can see the love sign. You can kind of see it back there before Maryland pops up, but not super well. But you do see the love sign and the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. Those pop up as well. We'll get a little bit of a better shot of the Liberty Bell here in just a minute. And then Maryland, you have a pair of statues for them. The statue of the mascot, Tostado. It's not Tostado. I don't know. Maybe Maryland fans can help me here. I don't know what that helmet is on top. Is that supposed to be a biker helmet? Like, it's certainly not a football helmet. I don't know. Maybe there is something going on there that I'm not aware of, but I would love to know if there's some kind of tradition there. Maybe this is one of those deep cuts that I just don't know about. Or maybe they just put a helmet up there and it's kind of like, why'd you put a helmet on top of Testudo? But I don't know. That's just me. Help me out. Let me know in the comments if you know what that helmet is all about. And then the commercial also shows the Capitol building and the Washington Monument. Oh, sorry, an alumni, Jim Henson, next to Kermit the Frog. Very, very interesting there. Very cool to see the history of Maryland there. I just want to know what that helmet's about. That's one of the only things I don't really know about super well. And then you see the Liberty Bell here as you kind of transition from Maryland over to Rutgers, the final school in it. You have Rutgers displaying a lot there on the edge. You see the Jersey Shore. You see Gillen's Wonderland Pier in Ocean City is the first thing that pops up there with the Ferris wheel and everything else. The sign that reads birthplace of college football pops up on Rutgers campus. I love that. So many people disrespect Rutgers, but it is the birthplace of college football. You would think college football was birthed down in the South or something like that, but the sign, the birthplace of college football. I love that. And then obviously a bunch of famous buildings. You're making sure you get New York in there with New Jersey, the Statue of Liberty, a Wall Street sign, Empire State Building, One World Trade Center, Yankee Stadium making its appearance in the Rutgers, and then NASDAQ screen seen in Times Square. All of this, and then of course, keep zooming out, and you see everyone there. You see USC, UCLA in the back, Oregon, Washington back there, Minnesota as well, and everybody there in the middle. That is the Big Ten Maps commercial remade for you, including all of them. And that's me breaking it down for you. So I love that they added all of that in there. And if there's anything I got wrong, please let me know. I would love to be educated. I feel like I did enough research and I feel like I did a good job. But if there's anything that maybe I didn't expand on enough that you want to expand on, please put it down in the comments. But I'd love to hear you all's thoughts. Very cool stuff there. I'm very glad that they were able to put all that in there. So fantastic stuff. All right, guys, let's go on to some more football-centric stuff. The most impactful Big Ten transfer for each team. Unfortunately, I do not have a nice graphic or anything like that in this one. However, I'm going to go through each team and just kind of quickly name the person or the player that I think will be the most impactful that is a transfer for their team this season. Let's just go ahead and go alphabetically. Illinois. I believe Terrence Brooks will be the most impactful transfer for this team. The cornerback coming over from Texas and once very highly rated recruit. I had a little bit of a hard time deciding between him and Zahir Franklin. I do think that Illinois, because of Luke Altmaier, maybe if I didn't think Luke Altmaier was, maybe as good, or maybe if it was his first year starting, I would lean a little bit more on Zahir Franklin, but I think Terrence Brooks is going to be very good for Illinois. Illinois has a track record of very good cornerbacks here recently. Devin Witherspoon being one of those, and the guy that gets a lot of credit for that is Ryan Walters, but it's actually Aaron Henry at Illinois that did a lot of that developing of Devin Witherspoon. So if he can get his hands on Terrence Brooks and really turn him into something, that would be awesome there for Illinois. Indiana, you're going to see a theme here, folks. All right. If you're a QB, you're probably the most impactful transfer. It just is what it is. It's the most important position. I have a few on here where I say, well, maybe not, but for the most part, Curtis Rourke, coming over from Ohio, this is going to be huge. Can Curtis Rourke actually play in Power 4 football? Now, I've gotten a lot of pushback. I think Curtis Rourke is borderline a top 5 quarterback in this conference. I've got a lot of pushback from that because people don't believe that he can be a top 5 quarterback because he played in G5. Understandable. However, I think if you see what he's done, he's not just done well because of competition. I think he has the intangibles. I think he understands the game well enough. I think that he's going to run a pretty good offense here for Kirk Cinetti, and I think that he's going to have some good wide receivers around him. Not great, but he has some good wide receivers coming in who are going to be good pieces around him, and I think Curtis Rourke is really going to help this offense this year. I really look forward to see what he can do, and this offense will go as Curtis Rourke goes. That's been one of Indiana's issues is on offense. They can't find their quarterback who can get things done for them. They started off with Taven Jackson last year, then they moved on to, I'm blanking on the name of the quarterback last year for Indiana. And of course that, that didn't go so well there, but now they have Curtis Rourke here. And I believe Indiana could, not predicting they will, but could get to 6 wins this season, which would be a good accomplishment for the Hoosiers. Iowa. All right. So Iowa's not playing very many transfers. I think the Gill wide receiver is the only other transfer other than Brendan Sullivan. I don't even know if Brendan Sullivan's going to be starting, but you're going to have to be impactful as a backup quarterback for Iowa if Cade McNamara is your starter, because Cade McNamara has been injury prone. I don't normally like to say that about players, but he has. He hasn't been able to finish an entire season since 2021, and he's in one of his, 5th, 6th, 7th year? I don't even remember at this point because it's been so long. but he's late in his career, so you're going to need some depth behind him. And I think Brendan Sullivan has a good chance to try to win the starting job here in training camp. Now I think they'll go with Caden McNamara. I think that's just kind of in Kirk Ferentz's DNA, go with the guy who has experience. But I wouldn't be surprised if we find ourselves with Brendan Sullivan week 2, week 3. Maybe Cade's banged up a little bit, but it's not just because of injury. It's also because Brendan Sullivan, I think, fits what Tim Lester wants to do. And there's more history there in the background than I think some people realize. All right, another quarterback, but I'm going to give you another pick on this one if he's not the starter. Excuse me, guys. MJ Morris. If he starts, he will be the most impactful player. I do think he's going to start over Billy Edwards Jr., but that is still a battle right now in camp, and there are other transfers on this team, so I can't say that for sure. I think that Jalen Husky, the cornerback from Bowling Green, is going to be the most impactful transfer for this team. I think Maryland has good linebacker play, so I'm not as worried about them stopping the run as I am worried about them stopping the pass. And to have a very good cornerback on your team is going to be super helpful. He was able to play well at Bowling Green, and so he's coming over to Maryland here. We'll see, kind of like Curtis Rourke, but obviously not the same pressure pack situation. We'll see if Jalen Husky can make a difference for this Maryland defense. All right, Michigan. A little bit of a hot take here. I think Josh Pribe, however you say his name, he's going to be the left guard for Michigan this year, coming from Northwestern. I believe he will be the left guard. And this is a team that lost their entire offensive line from last year. And Josh is a veteran player, a grad transfer coming over. He's played snaps at Northwestern, and I think it's going to be imperative that they have somebody on that line with experience who's played enough snaps to really be able to lead this offensive line. I think that you're going to look for Josh to be a bit of a leader on this team this year, and that's going to be important for him to be able to do that. And so that is why he is the most impactful transfer, even though I believe they've gotten better players. The Maryland linebacker coming over, Brashawn, forget his name, but he's coming over. He's very athletic. He's going to be a nice piece for him, but I'm not worried about that defense, right? I'm not worried about that at all. This Michigan team is going to go by their offense, and who does Sherrone Moore lean on more than anybody else with his offense? It's his offensive line. He needs a leader on that offensive line. I think Josh could make an impact in that way, which should be the most impactful part for Michigan this season. Michigan State, this is easy. Aiden Childs. If he can be everything that Michigan State Spartan fans are hoping that he can be, this is going to be awesome for them. If he flounders, if he doesn't do so well, it's not going to be awesome for him. So we'll see how it goes there. Minnesota, I mean, we're on a quarterback tear here. Minnesota, Max Brosmer, for the quarterback from New Hampshire, awesome quarterback in FCS. I mean, record breaker, 4,000 plus yards, nearly 5,000 if I'm not mistaken, but just super awesome quarterback there at the FCS level. If Curtis Rourke can make the jump from G5 to Power 4, Max Brosmer can make the jump from FCS to Power 4, in my opinion, just based off the way he played and watching some of what he did. So he's going to be super impactful. I mean, PJ Fleck, he needs an offense this year. He needs to have an offense, and he needs to have a quarterback that he trusts. Darius Taylor is going to be good, but you need to have a quarterback you can trust, so that way you're not just running the ball at the end of the game, and that's only threat that you have. You have to be able to pass the ball, have some accuracy to complete some passes late in the game as well. All right, Nebraska. My Nebraska transfer is... It's toss-up right now between Dante Dow, the running back from Oregon, and Jamal Banks, the wide receiver from Wake Forest. I think this offense is going to need some pieces around Dylan Raiola when he ultimately makes a start. I know that there were some odds there for a little bit for the other guy. Well, what's his name over at Nebraska? Heinrich Harburg over there. However, I do think that Dylan Raiola is going to end up being your guy, and I think he's going to need some weapons around him. And I think that the wide receiver Jamal Banks and Dante Dowdell, however you pronounce it, I think that they're both going to be huge pieces. So if I had to pick, I'd probably pick Jamal Banks, just because I think that he's going to be a big piece, and I think that a freshman quarterback needs a wide receiver he can rely on and kind of go to when things aren't going so well. But at the end of the day, it could be either one of those two guys. All right, Northwestern, Mike Wright, quarterback from Mississippi State, also spent 3 years with Vanderbilt there, but he never started the entire season at Mississippi State or any of these other places. However, he has been a good piece for these teams. He's played in a lot of games for them and made some impactful plays. Actually, I don't know if he may have started the full season his third year at Vanderbilt. I think he played in 12 games. I don't know if he started all 12 of those games, but he played in a lot of games that season. And so Northwestern, I mean, they're going to need somebody on offense who can really ignite this Northwestern offense and make it something a little bit better than what it has been the past few years. Now, last year, they kind of went through quarterbacks and things went okay. So maybe the quarterback isn't as big as an impact for them. Perhaps David Braun is going to be able to work with him no matter who it is. But I like for Mike Wright to make an impact on this team as a transfer. Ohio State, you could pick a lot of different people here. You could go with Quinshon Judkins, the running back. You could go with Caleb Downs, the safety. You could go with Seth McLaughlin, the center from Alabama, with Ohio State and their issues that they've had for the last few years with offensive line. I still think it's going to be Caleb Downs, the safety. When you get one of, if not the best safety in all of college football, a best player at their position in all of college football, and Quinshon Judkins has an argument for that. I think you still take Ollie Gordon over him just because of what Ollie Gordon has been able to do. But Quinshon Judkins has had 2 seasons of very good play. So I wouldn't necessarily dislike the pick if you said Quinshon Judkins was better than Ollie Gordon. But I do think at the end of the day, Caleb Downs is going to be that piece that is most impactful for Ohio State, solidifying the best secondary in the nation. In my mind, Notre Dame is up there as well. Michigan is up there as well. But I think Ohio State, at the end of the day, with Caleb Downs, with Denzel Burke, some of these other guys, they're going to be the best secondary in the nation. Jordan Hancock, best nickel corner in the nation, in my mind. All right, Oregon, Dylan Gabriel. This is easy. Quarterback for them. Can he replicate what Bo Nix was able to do the past few years? That's going to be imperative that he's going to be able to do something like that. I don't know, he'll be able to play everything the exact same as Bo Nix, but he's definitely going to be able to replicate it in some ways and do some of the things that Bo Nix was able to do. So you definitely need that for this Ducks squad. AJ Harris, the cornerback from Georgia. I mean, this is what Penn State needs, right? They need a star corner in their secondary. I think AJ Harris could be one of those guys. He is a young guy from Georgia. However, he's coming in. He's got that championship pedigree coming from Georgia. I don't think he was there when they won a championship because I think he might be a redshirt sophomore. I can't remember. But him coming in from there has the culture of one of the best teams, an elite team in college football. So I think he's going to be imperative for them. Purdue, Reggie Love, the running back coming in from Illinois. They have good running backs on this team, but I think Reggie Love is going to give them kind of a change of pace back a little bit, and that's going to be really good for Purdue, providing that offensive line is able to stay healthy this year. We'll see if that can happen. That needs to be a good piece there. Rutgers, Daimir Miller, the wide receiver coming in from Monmouth, had a huge season at Monmouth. We'll see if Rutgers can make that happen. Kirk Soraka is going to want to be able to throw the ball more with his guy, Athan Kaliak-Manis. However, it might not work so well unless you have a receiver that can be his guy. Daimir Miller can be that guy for Athan Kaliak-Manis, and I think that you're probably going to see some smaller rushing numbers for Kyle Monangai this year because you are going to see an offense that is going to be able to throw the ball better. I didn't say they're going to be great, but is better than last year. Gavin Wimsatt struggled in a lot of ways, and I think that's one of the reasons why they opted to bring in Athan Kaliak-Manis. But I do think Daimir Miller, he's going to be the big piece of that. He's going to be the one that makes this passing game be able to go. So one of my only times I'm going to take a player other than the quarterback in this situation because I do think Athan Kaliak-Manis is going to be required to have a very strong wide receiver like Daimir Miller if he's able to make that transition from FCS to Power 4 as well as we might hope. UCLA, Rico Flores Jr., coming in from Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't have a lot of great wide receivers last year. However, Rico Flores Jr. had some times when he looked pretty good for them. So can he come in, be a good piece for Ethan Garbers and that offense to be able to do what they need to do? UCLA doesn't have a whole lot of great wide receivers on their roster this year. In my mind, maybe they surprise me, but he's going to need to come in and be a top target for Ethan Garbers this season. Woody Marks, running back, coming in. USC, they love their transfer running backs. He's going to need to be a good piece for them. He's going to also be a good receiving option for Miller Moss, which is going to be huge for him, especially being a young guy. Only, I think, his second start of his career is going to be the start of this season. So he's going to need somebody that can check the ball down too. Washington's Jonah Coleman, the running back out of Arizona, one of the best running backs in the nation and all of college football, not just like top transfer running backs. In my mind, one of the best running backs in the nation. What he was able to do with some limited snaps last year was incredibly impressive down in Arizona. So if he can start replicating that at Washington, you're going to see a Washington offense, and him knowing Jed Fish, him understanding that kind of, what he's bringing to the team, that's going to be huge. When you're able to bring your guys like that, bring your culture, bring people, that's huge for them. So I like for Jonah Coleman to be the piece there, and then end it with Wisconsin and their quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, coming over, the quarterback from Miami. Can he replicate what he was able to do a couple years ago when he was fantastic? Or will he be what he was under Josh Gaddis? Let's hope not. Let's hope he is able to be who Phil Longo wants him to be. Phil Longo was able to turn Drake May into something really special when he was there 2 years ago at North Carolina. Can he do something similar with Tyler Van Dyke? No, he's not going to be a Heisman hopeful, I don't think. However, he can make Tyler Van Dyke into the best version of himself, I believe. Those are my most impactful Big Ten transfers for the 2024 season. Let me know what you think. If you think there's somebody else on your team that is going to be more impactful. Again, this is not the best transfer on your team. This is the most impactful for this season coming up, not for the future, for this season alone. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And of course, we always like to talk about the comments here. Let's look at our first comment. One is from EPC EEFFEEZZEE. This is from the main episode. Washington reminds you of Michigan. One of them is the top 5 all-time college football program. The other, not so much. Well, I wasn't talking primarily about their accomplishments in the past. I realized we were looking at that there, and maybe I didn't expand on it enough, but Washington reminds me of Michigan because obviously I'm an Ohio State fan. That team up north, that's kind of the way that Oregon looks at Washington a little bit. Washington kind of thumbs their nose down at Oregon a little bit because they look at themselves as a better academic program, kind of the same thing Michigan does to Ohio State. So that was kind of what I was getting at. Obviously, yes, the program's history are not exactly the same. They're pretty different. However, I was trying to get at kind of like the fan bases and the relationship with the rivalries a little bit, in my opinion. So I apologize if I didn't explain that thoroughly enough for you. Comment number 2. Every Big Ten team's record that would be expected by their fans. All right, here we go. Here is what Edie Money is saying. Zach Edie. As a Purdue fan, with all the coaches and Hudson saying about year 2 jumps, it makes me want and expect a bowl game 6-6, or at least competitive 5. I'm not satisfied with just one more win. I can't blame you. I replied to this one and I told him, hey, I appreciate the insight on what he's thinking. I think at the end of the year, after you face so many good teams, you might change your tune with 5-7, but I get it. You won a bowl game, and believe me, I'm rooting for Ryan Walters. I want this fan base to be happy with him because I think Ryan Walters is a good coach, and I think that he can do some good things at Purdue. We'll see. He's definitely been bringing in good players. Dwayne Galloway was a huge commit for them, but he has to do something with those players and transfer players as well. He was able to bring in the Georgia wide receiver, the Georgia cornerback as well. Those are going to be huge pieces for them. All right, next comment. This is from the Notre Dame USC rivalry, bringing Notre Dame to the Big Ten. The Big Ten! Michael here. needs to get off its knees and stop begging Notre Dame to join. It's embarrassing. Well, Michael, I don't know if you were talking about us. We weren't doing that. We weren't doing that in the video by any means. If any means, we were kind of being hard on Notre Dame a little bit. But look, we've said this before on this channel, and I get it. Not everybody listens to every single episode, but we are in favor of the Big Ten saying we are not going to schedule Notre Dame until they join the conference. We're in favor of that. At least I am. And I think that we've made it pretty clear that Notre Dame needs the Big Ten. The Big Ten doesn't need Notre Dame. The Big Ten is in a better spot. And yes, Notre Dame fans, if you're out there watching, you need the Big Ten. You can claim independence all you want and play this little tradition game. And don't get me wrong, I love tradition. But at the end of the day, it is not the same to make the playoffs. If you go undefeated, your best chance is still to make the playoffs as a 5 seed. You're not going to get a bye. And no, it's not the same as losing your championship game, your conference championship game. It's not the same as a bye for them. You can lose your conference championship game and still make the college football playoffs. You can't lose the first game of the college football playoffs and still get in. So no, it's not the same. Notre Dame, you need the Big Ten more than the Big Ten needs you. And I'll point out the same exact thing I pointed out to somebody else. Notre Dame has 8 Power 4 conference games on their schedule this year. That's because nobody wants to play them. That's because nobody sees the benefit of playing Notre Dame and scheduling a home and home with them. Yes, Texas A&M is doing it this year and USC, and they have their little agreement with the ACC, but you don't see it. They're playing 2 MAC teams, Army and Navy, out of conference, out of conference or whatever for them. And it's an embarrassing schedule. They need the Big Ten. They need to be able to be playing some better teams, because even if they did go 5 or 12-0, they don't deserve to be a 5 seed, 6, 7 seed. But your best games are Texas A&M and USC. You don't deserve to be a 5th or maybe a 6 seed if you're undefeated, but you don't deserve a 5 seed. Next one. The Rutgers video, Kirk Herbstreit picks Rutgers as a dark horse. The Dr. Fox says Rutgers has a pretty favorable schedule and that they don't play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, nor Oregon. I would add Iowa to that as well. That being said, the notion of Rutgers potentially winning 10 games and being in the college football playoffs is beyond insane. Best case scenario, 8-4. Worst case scenario, 6-6. And I think they end up 7-5. With all said and done, Rutgers will not be an easy out for everyone. For the first time in Rutgers history, 6-6 would be a disappointment. If you go 6-6 with this schedule as Rutgers, that's disappointing. You go 7-5, it's like, okay, we went over 500, but that's still a little disappointing, right? I mean, that's like the bare minimum of what can happen in my mind that makes Rutgers fans happy. I think if you're a Rutgers fan, you want 8-4, you want 9-3. Sure, call me insane, but guess what? This is a much better team with Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano has got this team into a good situation. He has coordinators that have been there for a little while. They've brought in a transfer quarterback that is familiar with their offensive coordinator. I don't think it's insane to say that Rutgers could win 9 games. Sure, 10 games is a little insane, right? Make the college football playoffs. I don't know if you even get in with 10 wins as Rutgers with how weak that schedule is personally. But at the end of the day, that schedule is so weak. If Greg Schiano can really find, I'm not going to pick him to go 10-2, but if he can really find something special, they might be able to. We'll see. It is a pretty bold prediction, but hey, that's why Kirk Herbstreit said he's their dark horse. It's a little bit of a bold prediction. All right, number 5. Talking about the Big Ten basketball tournament. So this is a basketball comment here. John Hawk says everything is close in Indy. Everything is within 8 to 10 blocks from Cambridge. I could not agree more with you, John. I could not agree more. The Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis just makes so much sense, and I get exactly what Kent was saying in that video or in that episode when he was talking about wanting to go different places and visit stuff. But to me, Indianapolis, it just feels like a home for the Big Ten right now in so many ways with how they've been playing games there, media days there, so many things like that. I get it. It's not actually like the home of home city or anything like that, but it feels like a great location. And I cannot say enough good things about Indianapolis and how good of a place it is to hold events. The convention center is one of the biggest in the nation. Lucas Oil Stadium was fantastic for Big Ten Media Days. Gainbridge Fieldhouse, like you said, it's right there. There's so much going on around it. You can go get a drink after the game. You can go get a drink before. I mean, it's a great, great situation. I could not be happier with the Big Ten doing events in Indianapolis. All right, our last comment here. Could the Notre Dame versus USC rivalry bring Notre Dame to the Big Ten? Jason Roberts says, didn't Lincoln Riley hint at dropping the Notre Dame rivalry game during Big Ten Media Days? If the Big Ten schools quit scheduling Notre Dame, it would probably cause some sort of reaction, but doubtful. I think I have the rest of it right here, but doubtful that all those schools would be on board with that kind of thing. Well, it's interesting. When Lincoln Riley was talking about this at Big Ten Media Days, he was talking about the college football playoffs and how if Notre Dame is your final game on the schedule, it makes sense if you have a path to if you have a path to the Big Ten championship game, it makes sense. Oh, I got to bring this down so you guys can see me. It makes sense to him if you rest your players. Now, what does that do for the rivalry game? He's going to get called soft. He's going to say, oh, you don't want to win the games. You don't want to beat your rivals. No, he's actually trying to think about what is best for his team overall. And that's one of the hardest things about college football, right? That's the thing with the NFL. Think about your team overall. Everybody gets it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, rivalry games at the end of the season in the NFL aren't the same as they are in college football. But that's one of the hardest things. It's a tradition that we've loved for so long. And I don't think Ohio State and Michigan go through this as much because you are in the same conference. And that game could be the deciding factor of if you go to the Big Ten championship game or not. USC Notre Dame, as long as right now Notre Dame's not in the conference, that has no bearing on the Big Ten championship game. USC can go 0-3 and out of conference, and they can still make the Big Ten championship game. They can go 9-0, 0-3, 9-3 overall, make the Big Ten championship game. So I get what Lincoln Riley is saying. I don't like it. I'm not going to call him soft for it because I think he's just being honest. And I think sometimes we get on these guys a little bit too much for just being honest. I appreciated how kind of confident Lincoln Riley was at Big Ten Media Days because it definitely gave us something to talk about, right? Sherrone Moore was one of the most buttoned up coaches there. Ryan Day, too. And so we have hardly any talking points coming out of Big Ten Media Days with them. But guys like Kirk Cignetti, Lincoln Riley, Deshaun Foster, who are willing to just kind of let it out there a little bit more. Those are the kind of guys we're talking about. What they said, they're giving us ideas. Heck, I was able to make an entire video from comments from Lincoln Riley. So I love it. I think it's a cool thing. And I like listening to Lincoln Riley. I think that he's candid. I think that he has some emotion with the way he says things. And I think he gets you a little bit more info than maybe some other Big Ten coaches do. But that's just me. All right, everybody, that is the episode for Saturday morning. Let me know what you think about this episode. Let me know come football season if there's a certain time or something you want a live show, you want a recorded show, if you want episodes. Let me know if you're like, man, JR, I would love a Saturday night kind of like Big Ten day recap show at late at night, Big Ten After Dark show or something like that. Let me know. We can maybe like talk about a game as it's going on because I'm sure some of these out west games are going to be going on when that kind of stuff is happening. So really looking forward to the season, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back Monday morning at 6 a.m. with another episode. So check us out then. And we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening if you're on the podcast version. And hey, while you're over there, leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.